The room was filled with proud parents, bright smiles, and the sound of a young generation stepping into the future. But in the middle of that unforgettable graduation ceremony, one exhausted father stood frozen as two guards grabbed his arm and told him he did not belong there. The crowd watched as a single dad, who had sacrificed everything for his son, was treated like an outsider on the most important day of his life. Before we continue this emotional journey, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and standing up for people who deserve respect, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel Beyond Single Dad. Your support helps us share more inspiring stories like this one. For 15 years, Caleb Whitmore had lived a life built around one promise: his son Mason would never feel alone. After Mason's mother passed away when he was young, Caleb became everything his son needed. He was a father, a cook, a homework helper, a coach, and the person who stayed awake through the hardest nights when bills piled up and life felt impossible. Caleb never had expensive clothes or a powerful job. He worked long hours repairing old machines at a small workshop, coming home with tired hands and a heart full of determination. He missed vacations, celebrations, and many moments of rest because every dollar and every sacrifice was for Mason's future. There were nights when Caleb sat at the kitchen table counting coins, wondering how he would make things work. But every morning, when Mason walked into the room with a smile, Caleb remembered why he kept fighting. Graduation day was supposed to be the reward for all those years of struggle. Caleb wore the only suit he owned, carefully cleaned and pressed the night before. Inside his pocket was a small handwritten note he had prepared for Mason, filled with memories of their journey together. He arrived early, found his seat, and watched proudly as students entered the hall wearing their graduation gowns. His eyes searched through the crowd until he saw Mason standing with his classmates. In that moment, every difficult day felt worth it. But suddenly, two security guards approached him. They questioned his presence, saying there was confusion about his ticket and that he needed to leave the seating area. Caleb tried to explain that he was Mason's father and that he had traveled across town just to see his son graduate. He showed every piece of information he had, but the guards had already decided he did not belong. The whispers around him grew louder. Some people stared. Others looked away. Caleb felt the same pain he had felt years earlier when life kept pushing him down. But this time it hurt more because Mason was about to achieve his dream, and Caleb was being pushed away from witnessing it. The guards reached for his arm and began escorting him toward the exit. The entire hall seemed to go silent. Caleb lowered his eyes, fighting back tears. He was not angry. He was only heartbroken that after everything he had done, he might miss the one moment he had waited years to see. Then something unexpected happened. A group of 10 men in formal Navy uniforms stood up from their seats. They were Navy SEALs who had been invited to honor graduates who planned to serve their communities. They had been watching quietly from the back of the room. They had seen Caleb's face. They had seen the pain of a father who was not causing trouble but simply trying to be there for his child. The 10 SEALs walked forward, and the entire room turned toward them. Their presence alone changed the atmosphere. The guards stopped. The crowd became completely silent. The senior SEAL stepped forward and calmly explained that he had personally watched Caleb support Mason throughout the ceremony preparations. He shared that Mason had written about his father's sacrifices in a school essay that touched many people. The essay described a father who never gave up, even when life gave him every reason to quit. The room changed instantly. The same people who had looked away moments earlier now saw the truth. They saw not just a man in an old suit, but a father who had spent years giving his son a chance at a better future. The guards apologized and stepped back. Caleb was invited to return to his seat. But the moment he reached the aisle, Mason saw him. The graduate walked across the stage area and hugged his father in front of everyone. The applause that followed was louder than anything anyone expected. People stood, not for a perfect life, not for wealth or status, but for love, sacrifice, and a father who refused to abandon his son. Caleb finally opened the note he had carried all day. It was simple. It reminded Mason that success was not measured by money or recognition, but by the people who stand beside you when life becomes difficult. Years of struggle had led to this one moment. The man who was almost removed from the room became the person everyone wanted to celebrate. This story reminds us that sometimes the quietest heroes are the ones making the biggest sacrifices. A parent's love does not always come with applause, but it leaves a mark that lasts forever. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like the video, share it with others, and subscribe to Beyond Single Dad so more people can experience stories filled with hope, compassion, and humanity. Before we end, please comment, "A father's love never gives up," if you believe every sacrifice made with love deserves to be honored. Because sometimes, one small act of kindness can remind the world that every person has a story worth hearing.